With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. This afternoon, sunshine with a high of 85. Then tonight, a chance of showers and storms with a low of 68. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome to The Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ progressive radio news and talk show in America. I am your host, John Parker. I'm a little behind today. I still haven't gotten onto after the quote-unquote holiday weekend. Yeah. I had a great weekend.
You're a little breathless.
That is Jim Pound speaking, executive producer. I do feel a little breathless.
Yeah.
I do. Patrick in the control room. Hey, Patrick, how are you?
Good afternoon. Glad to be back after the long holiday weekend. It was not long enough and yet too long at the same time, so I'm just glad we're back here.
Did you do anything to mark or not protest the holiday?
Well, I did go to a baseball game on Friday. That wasn't exactly protesting anything, but we had fun.
Good. Were you calling it?
No, I was just watching it. It was very hot. I will say that too.
I have to say I'm loving this weather. I'm loving it. It is finally. It's been such a long time coming, and I'm going to enjoy every degree of it. All right. If you're listening in the 2 p.m. Central Hour, we can take your calls 952-946-6205, 946-6205. I'm also sharing that number because I've got more tickets to give away.
Yes.
To Hidden Brain, which is going to be at the State Theater in Minneapolis this Friday, July 11th at 6:30 p.m. And this is based off of the podcast Hidden Brain that's been on the air. I can say on the air, a podcast anyway. It's been going for existence. 10 years now.
Yeah.
And Shankar Vedantam is the host and has created a stage version of the show, which is based off of 10 years of learning about the brain and how does the brain work and what can we learn from the brain and how it works and how that can apply that to our regular day-to-day life.
That sounds really fascinating, especially in these times.
Well, and the main question that the podcast asks is, are there parts of our minds that are hidden from us? And that was the main question that launched the podcast.
Yeah.
And, on the website, reading the description, they say that the podcast has helped millions of listeners learn about how the brain and how it functions so they can accomplish their goals, improve relationships, and develop a deeper understanding of their emotions and where they're coming from, which can lead to better emotion management in this hellscape that we are living through. So Shankar Vedantam brings 7 key insights that have developed that he has, learned and observed through doing a decade of the Hidden Brain podcast. And so we've got tickets to give away for this Friday, June 11th at 6:30 p.m.
Do you have a pair of tickets or?
I've got 2 pairs of tickets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. You can call in. First 2 callers get a pair of tickets.
And the State Theater is that sort of great in between the Pantages and the Orpheum, being the big and small, and then that's the one that's just the right size, the State Theater on the east side of Hennepin Avenue at about 9th Street. It's a great spot. It's even if the show is not exactly what you want, the theater is gorgeous. So you can sit there and look at that.
The show sounds really.
It does.
The show sounds really interesting.
It sounds intriguing.
To get the brain is. I did some neuroscience research and how do I put this? Certification. Like I'm not a neuroscientist, but there was a course that I took. It was a 12-week course when I was doing equity and inclusion work in higher education about using neuroscience as a way of motivating people and how you approach doing your work. And it was really fascinating.
Interesting.
we're going to be up north, so I can't go myself.
Yeah.
But 952-946-6205 to first two callers gets a pair of tickets.
Cool.
I mean, each caller gets a pair of tickets.
Yes.
Anyway, what is on the show today? Musk, everyone's favorite Elon Musk, is launching a new political party, the America Party, which raises a question, controversial, but I'm going to ask it. Should progressives do the same so that we can create a real four-party system? A lot of folks are not happy with how the Democratic Party is responding to the MAGA Trump administration. And we never really want to do third party anybody because it just takes away votes and creates, a disaster. So electoral disaster. But if he's creating a party and we create a party, then we got four parties. But we're going to talk about it in the second half hour of the show.
I have a lot to say.
MAGA, surprise, MAGA and the Christian Nationalists are foaming at the mouth over rainbows on crosswalks. Yes, that was a sentence that I just said.
Yes.
And this more serious, libraries are getting bomb threats as Christian Nationalists are continuing to get staff fired. That's going to be a two-parter. We're talking about violence today because what I want to start with is an Indiana church who is calling for LGBTQ folks to kill themselves or face the death penalty. And I want to talk about this violence because if we look at what they're doing with ICE right now, and last week, the Florida governor, DeSantis, admitted to the press that the point of the alligator Alcatraz and all the violence that they're doing is the point. The cruelty is the point because they're, as he put it, they're trying to get undocumented people to self-deport because they're so terrified at what's happening here. So I want to sort of underscore that this idea of violence and cruelty is not rhetoric, that they are doing this on purpose to scare people to living under their biblical laws or to live under their view of the world.
You mean this unchristian cruelty is the point.
Well, let's talk about that. So there was at this church, Indiana church, a men's preaching event where, so there were a bunch of people that were men, obviously, because they don't like women in this church. And there are members that were preaching there.
That should tell you something.
So, we're getting a lot of this reporting. Thank you to Pink News. So a member, Stephen Falco, during the service said, this is a direct quote, "You ought to blow yourself in the back of the head. You're so disgusting. How shall we then properly pray for gay people? We should pray for their deaths. Plain and simple." Another member, Wade Raleigh, said that queer folks should be, quote, beaten and stomped in the mud, end quote, before they, quote again, should take a gun and blow the back of their heads off, end quote. So the pastor called out and said, hey, what's going on here? Justin Zhang defended all of this on Facebook and said, quote, "I will not apologize for stating facts. I will not negotiate with terrorists among whom the LGBT HIV crowd is full of domestic terrorists."
Wow.
Now, the thing is that when I see this...
That's a huge concept for a person with such a small brain.
Well, so these will crop up, right, in the news, and then they go away really quickly because everybody just sits there and goes, oh, here's another nut job church that's spouting violence against the LGBTQ community. But let's take a tour, shall we? Let's take a tour of violent Christian nationalism. So earlier this year, in Oklahoma, Pastor Dylan Oz, AWES, in a sermon said they, queer people, quote, should be lined up against the wall and shot in the back of the head. In 2023, we have Michigan U.S. Congressman Tim Walberg traveled to Uganda, attended the Ugandan National Prayer Breakfast, and said to them about their anti-LGBTQ law, which criminalizes being queer and trans and includes the death penalty. Quote, "Though the rest of the world is pushing back on you, though there are other major countries that are trying to get into you and ultimately change you, stand firm, stand firm."
I'm not can you tell me what, because I'm going to start reacting pretty angrily. What is airing this insanity?
Jim, I just said that we're taking a tour.
Yeah, I know we're taking. And is there something at the end that we're going to feel good about, or is it just going to be terrible? Do you know what I mean? I'm just thinking of the way I'm reacting.
Can I finish my reporting?
Yes, you may. I'm sorry. I just had a thought.
Okay. In 2015, there's the MAGA primary for president. So we have Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee were wooing voters at an event hosted by Pastor Kevin Swanson. And Swanson's view, and this is again, quote, Leviticus 20:13 calls for the death penalty for homosexuals. And he said to the press, quote, I am willing to go to jail for standing on the truth of the word of God. 2019 in Tennessee, a Knox County Sheriff's Office detective who is also a preacher. So this is a law enforcement official, said, quote, God has instilled the power of civil government to send the police in 2019 out to the LGBTQ freaks and arrest them and have a trial for them. And if they are convicted, then they are to be put to death. Okay. So now let's turn to everyone's favorite defense secretary, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth has gone on the podcast circuit, lots of interviews to call for the theocratic and authoritarian doctrine of sphere sovereignty. And what is sphere sovereignty? This is the subordination of civil government to Old Testament law. Old Testament law includes capital punishment for homosexuality. Now, where did he get this? He got this from Pastor Doug Wilson from Moscow, Idaho. Not Moscow, Russia. And who is Pastor Doug Wilson? Well, he founded the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches, or CREC. They have 150 congregations across 4 continents. Pete Hegseth is a member of a CREC church in Tennessee. Now, what are the goals of this church that Pastor Doug Wilson has developed? Number 1, amending the Constitution to include reference to the Apostles' Creed. 2, restricting office holding to practicing Christians. 3, changing voting practices to award votes by household, with the default vote holder being the male head of the household, so ostensibly getting rid of the women's right to vote. And they have said, Wilson has said his long-term goal is to inspire a grassroots Christian reformation that would excise the whole idea of secularism from American law and society. And this guy is now advising, or has a phone call away, to the Secretary of Defense here in the United States. And it is bonkers. And so when you hear these stories, I don't want folks to sit there and go, oh, well, there's another crazy right-wing nutjob pastor, they're not, whatever. This is a real thing. They are organizing. And it is very scary. And we need to be paying attention to it because there's more violence that they're up to, and they're targeting libraries. More after that in the break.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease. It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. or visit snapconstruction.com.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
For a decade, it's captivated Twin Cities audiences, and now the cultural phenomenon Glen Sheen returns. This captivating musical by Jeffrey Hatcher and Chan Poling features strong performances from a talented 7-member ensemble and Ron Peluso's brilliant direction. It's a limited engagement July 7th through the 25th at the History Theater in downtown St. Paul. Get tickets at historytheater.com. That's History Theater, spelled RE.com.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm your host, John Parker. We are coming up here on the bottom of the hour. If you're listening in the 2 p.m. Central Hour in Minnesota, we can take your calls at 952-946-6205. Don't forget, we're giving away free tickets to Hidden Brain at the State Theater this Friday. First 2 callers get a free pair of tickets each. Starts at 6:30 p.m. Before the break, we were talking about all of these. I was laying out this trend of Christian pastors who are calling for the death penalty for LGBTQ people. And I really don't want folks to think of this as an isolated event anymore. And I know that, John Fugelsang does a really great job on his podcast and on the Stephanie Miller Show, where he's really breaking down how they're not actually practicing Christianity. And we have a lot of folks, when you go to prides that we saw over Pride Month, we have a lot of faith traditions, Christian churches rather, that are inclusive of LGBTQ people. But I think this is kind of missing the point. I don't want to have an academic exercise and look at, the interpretation of Bible verses, because that's not going to change a lot of these MAGA folks' minds. I think that will peel off independents. I think that will, for Democrats, non-voters, etc., that's great. But there is a very coordinated movement that is willing to use violence and declarations of violence, and they are now getting into positions of significant power here in the country. And another evidence of this, I think, is where you look at bomb threats against libraries. So earlier this year, just in June, these libraries received bomb threats. On June 10th, Provo Public Library in Provo, Utah. June 11th, Musser Public Library in Iowa. June 13th, New Haven Public Library in New Haven, Connecticut. June 16th, the Centennial Hills Library branch at the Las Vegas Public Library in Las Vegas. And you may be thinking, okay, wow, that was a slew of bomb threats. This goes back. In Chicago, 2023, Crystal Lake Public Library, Wilmette Public Library, Warren Newport Public Library, twice actually, Morton Grove Public Library, also twice, and Park Ridge Public Library and Oak Park Public Library all received bomb threats. In Minnesota in 2024, Fergus Falls Public Library, East Central Regional Library System, Northfield Public Library, Heritage Library in Lakeville, part of the Dakota County system, all received bomb threats. Newburgh Public Library in Oregon last year, Woodstock Public Library in New York, Alaska Seward Public Library, all in 2024. Now, does it matter if these were ultimately unfounded bomb threats, meaning there weren't actual bombs, there was no coordinated real effort, but they still intimidate. They still lead to evacuations. They still lead to a waste of police resources. And this is not something that we see on the left, where we are, there are things where I'm like, there are things that we don't like of Christian nationalism. We're not calling in bomb threats to churches. In Georgia, this is based on reporting from Georgia Public Radio and Rough Draft Atlanta, where they are not just satisfied with calling in bomb threats. So this is the story of a staff member, manager at the Pierce County Library, rather. Sorry, my notes are scroll to my notes. The summer reading theme for Georgia is Color Our World. And at this library, patrons, kids, and parents make recommendations for a display of books at the library that fit into the theme. And Livonia Moore is the manager, and she was in charge at the library of creating the display. She was a little worried about this because there's an anti-LGBTQ organization, Alliance for Faith and Family, that had already forced the Pierce County Library to switch their regional systems because of LGBTQ plus friendly initiatives that Pierce County Library was doing. And so they were already a target of this group. She brought this up with management. What should I do if LGBTQ books are brought forward? Should I put them in the display? Her managers, apparently, according to Moore, said, don't worry about it. We don't get that type of controversy. Kind of weird considering they had to switch library systems. So a child comes forward and asks that Kyle Lukoff's When Aiden Became a Brother be put into the display. Now, we've had Kyle on the show. And Kyle's book won awards. It's age appropriate. I mean, the same old thing here. Excellent reviews, reputable children's publisher, etc. The Alliance for Faith and Family launched a pressure campaign with Pierce County commissioners and the Three Rivers Regional Library System. And they said they were taking a stand against promoting transgenderism at our local library. That was a quote. According to a Wisconsin Public Radio article, they also posted a Facebook message calling the book's presence, When Aiden Became a Brother, mental manipulation. And then on June 18th, Pierce County fired Livonia Moore. She claims they told her she was fired for, quote, poor decision-making. She claims that there was no investigation, no warning, no prior communication, and that they used the at-will clause in her contract. This is so disturbing on so many levels here. The capitulation, not even following your HR policies. And I don't know the HR policies here of Pierce County Library, but as a former chief diversity officer and as a former affirmative action officer and also as a former union steward, there are policies laid out for how people are disciplined and how they are, what happens when you lead to someone being let go, fired, dismissed from a position. To succumb to a pressure campaign to fire somebody. When she asked management, what do I do in this situation? And they said, oh, go ahead, put the LGBTQ books on the display. We don't get that type of controversy. And they didn't support their staff member. Moore had worked at this library for 15 years, working her way up the ranks to her managerial position. Now concerned, telling the press down there that she doesn't know what to do about her career because this firing may stay with her if she goes to other library systems, and will other library systems hire her, given how this all went down when the Alliance created a pressure campaign to get her fired for including a single book, queer book, in a display. It's the coordination of it, the use and willingness to use violence. It's not one-offs. It is coordinated. It is deliberate. As DeSantis said last week, The cruelty is the point. And I don't think that we have a response yet to it. I have to fit in a break here. None of this conversation is possible without our generous advertisers and sponsors. Thank them. Tell them that you heard about them on The Gailey Show.
Hello, Minnesota. This is Tom Hartman, and you can catch me every weekday from 11 to 2 right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's smart radio for smart people.
Your Twin Cities Metro Public Libraries are committed to providing quality services, resources, and programs to the LGBTQ+ community. Check out the Metro Pride book list, including ebooks and e-audio for kids, teens, and adults at melsa.org/pride-booklist. That's MELSA.org/pride-booklist. You'll find titles specific to different identities, including aromantic, asexual, bi+, gay, genderqueer, intersex, lesbian, queer families, transgender, and two-spirit. And your Metro Public Libraries have programming for you. The Hennepin County Library has 2 book clubs. The Queer Book Club meets virtually once a month, and the Queer Romance Book Club meets at the Edina branch monthly. Search events on Hennepin County Library's website with keyword queer to find details. In fact, searching events on the Metro Public Library websites is a good way to find book club meetings and lots of other programming, or stop by a branch near you to check out what they have to offer. melsa.org/pride-booklist.
Rudy Luther Toyota has a great way for you to purchase your next vehicle. It's the Toyota Smart Path. You can shop at the dealership or on your couch. Shop smarter by saving time, and remember, they'll have the best prices and no surprises. You can browse the available vehicles, use the Smart Path payment estimator to customize your own payments, apply for financing, and then finalize your purchase. Smart Path is the smartest path to your new vehicle. Check it out online at rudyluthertoyota.com or stop by Rudy Luther Toyota, 5 miles west of Minneapolis on 394.
For a decade, it's captivated Twin Cities audiences, and now the cultural phenomenon Glen Sheen returns. This captivating musical by Jeffrey Hatcher and Chan Poling features strong performances from a talented 7-member ensemble and Ron Peluso's brilliant direction. It's a limited engagement July 7th through the 25th at the History Theater in downtown St. Paul. Get tickets at historytheater.com. That's History Theater, spelled R-E.com.
Your heart beats for generations. Take care of it.
There's a lot that we can do to take care of ourselves. And so I think it's important to take the smaller steps and break it down into more manageable pieces, because the little steps leads to big changes.
Every beat of your heart tells a story of love, resilience, and hope. For Indigenous women, taking care of your heart means creating more moments with the ones you cherish. Let's protect that story. Learn more at hennepin.us/heart-beats.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. This afternoon, sunshine with a high of 85. Then tonight, a chance of showers and storms with a low of 68. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or cafelatte.com. This is AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to the Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ progressive radio news and talk show in the United States. I am your host, John Parker. It is 33 minutes after the hour. I'm in studio with my executive producer, Jim Pounds. For folks in Minneapolis, I've still got those 2 tickets to Hidden Brain, an event at State Theater this Friday, June 11th at 6:30 p.m. Call in, get your pair of tickets. Next 2 callers will get them for free. Enjoy a lovely evening in downtown Minneapolis this Friday. So in the first half hour of the show, I was laying out a series of things that Jim absolutely hates. He hates when I do this type of reporting. So I'm going to let him have a few minutes here to air his grievances at me for doing this. We were talking about the pattern of behavior of more and more Christian pastors to call for the death penalty for LGBTQ people. and laying out bomb threats, a series of bomb threats going back years now, of MAGA folks willing to disrupt the operations and scare people at public libraries, and trying to get and being successful at getting librarians fired for including LGBTQ books, programs, and displays, etc. Jim, your thoughts?
Well, I don't object to putting the litany of things together. You're right. It has great impact for somebody who does what you're saying. Oh, well, that's just some kook. You're pointing out, no, this is a coordinated attack by Christian nationalists against our people. And the only thing that I'm scared about is that once you put all that stuff on that sandwich, you haven't told anybody how to eat it. And I don't think you know how to eat it, and I don't know how to eat it either. But you're right. We're up against, here's where I think the problem is. I think the other side, phony Christians, are in the midst of a war against us. They use the word war. They are violent people. And I don't think any of us on this side, very few of us, I don't include myself in this, don't think we're in a war. Most of the people on the left are like, oh, well, that'll never happen. But we're in a war, and it's going to require us to do things that are beyond our comprehension. I've said that before. So what I want us to be telling people is, yes, look at all this terrible stuff that's happened, but we need to start thinking about, should we go by ourselves to some place? Should we go in a group? Should we be more coordinated in our preparations at home and all that stuff? If we're in a situation where people are going to act on this insanity, we're in danger, and I don't want to be telling people they're in danger without giving them some idea of how to keep themselves safer. Should you take self-defense training? Should you, whatever you should think about the fact that this could be coming to you. It would be crazy to not think about that and to have some sort of plan. I know 3 people I would call right now if I felt unsafe, and to have that kind of proactivity, I think gives you a little bit of peace of mind, as opposed to the walls are closing in on me. So that's what I want people to feel like, hey, we're going to fight this together. I want to put one of each of the rainbow colors in a boat, and we'll row where we need to go, and we'll take care of the enemy if they want to identify themselves that way.
I think that there is a lot of dissatisfaction with how the Democratic Party is not responding. And you can look to a filibuster that goes 26 hours, however long it went, Senator Booker, and you can look at last week, House Speaker Jeffries doing another record-breaking filibuster. These are lovely. You're using the what's available to you as a minority party to try to slow things down. But there is a movement that is ready and waiting, and I'm very flummoxed at how someone on the left hasn't walked in and taken advantage of this movement. It is waiting for a governor. It is waiting for a senator. It is waiting for somebody, a congressman. It is there for the taking. People are angry on the left. And I agree to a certain extent. I think there are a lot of people that are just trying to live their lives, and they're getting through it. And they don't understand that there is a coordinated millions of people that are sitting in congregations every Sunday, nodding their heads going, yeah, they should be put to death. LGBTQ people should be put to death. They're not alone with that. And then there are others who are not on that spectrum. They're like, no, that's bad. But they're of the DeSantis variety, which is let's be so cruel to trans people. Let's be so cruel to queer people that we will scare them and bully them and emotionally abuse them into stop making the choice, quote unquote, of being LGBTQ.
And how long are we going to take that?
And that also fits into their ongoing, before they overturned Roe v. Wade, they were always calling in bomb threats into abortion centers, some of them being Planned Parenthood centers. And so that is a question, is what are we waiting for? There are folks that are talking about, we'll have a general strike in 2026. Why are we waiting until
Well,
2026 to
yeah.
organize a general strike.
that-
And I think that folks think that going to a protest on a weekend and holding a fancy sign, yes, that's showing displeasure, but that is not taking power.
There aren't very many tactics left that are not either going to provoke the outcome none of us want, or that are not legal, which a lot of people don't want to cross that line.
Why are we on our side of the aisle running for public library boards? Why are we not filing lawsuits for freedom of speech when your book is banned from a library? Why are we not getting onto school boards?
Running for library and school boards, I
why don't
completely support
we?
that.
I know you and I talk about this all the time. Why don't we own rural newspapers
or radio and television stations? There's a very teeny tiny move in that direction, but there's a lot of Democratic billionaires who could put some of that money together and start buying television stations. Just the symbolism of that would say, hey, we're going to push back on this. We're going to start telling people the actual truth. And instead, Bloomberg, Steyer, nothing. So the failure that you tend to talk about, it makes people think about elected officials or party officials who are also pretty inept. But I would include Democratic billionaires in that list of people that don't seem to know how to respond to this effectively or dramatically or push back. The way to stop a bully is you shove them down onto the ground. And I know that's a violent image, but we are getting pushed into a corner. And I think they're trying to provoke that, to tell you the truth. And I'm not sure how many times we can turn the cheek.
There's a difference between violence and saying, no, you're not going to treat me that way.
Yes.
We're going to hold our ground here. We're going to have decorum, and we will enforce the rule of law in the country. And
yeah. I mean, I worry about that because we've seen the rule of law fail so miserably in the last couple of years, beyond any expectation I ever had. So I want to believe in the rule of law.
Or was it Jefferson that said, you now have, there you go, America has a republic and a democracy so long as they can keep it. That's a paraphrase on there. But if we don't sit there and say that we are going to uphold the rule of law, but they are in a position of, we are going to do everything we can to take power. And we're always in let's win the debate. Let's be the smartest person in the room. And if the fastest way to an elected, like a state rep or a state senator, the entryway to that is school boards. A lot of people get their first governance and running for a school board. Why are we not running for school boards?
I don't know how to answer that, but I completely agree. Everyone should run for school board.
It's really easy for me to sort of sit there and say that, but I'm in the media now. You know what I mean? I'm part of the chattering class, so I can't run for anything unless I were to give up the show, and I'm too invested in the show, and I want to grow the show and make it, as widely listened to across the United States as possible. But I've served on nonprofit boards. You know what I mean? I've served on a county commission subcommittee, not as an elected commissioner. Like, folks need to be going in and taking control of power, because I think that we're not realizing, this is the thing though, is that nobody is stepping into the breach and realizing the majority of America does not like this. And if you run on it, Zohran Mamdani is the example of this. If you run on things that people want, economic issues that people want that are based in reality, so not what MAGA did last year, which is complete, nutso unreality. You run on actual reality, on real policies, then look at the voter turnout that you can get. And even when people are sitting there, I love John Nichols. Sorry, I'm going to go on a side thing here, but I'm going to bring it back in. People are like, oh, well, Zohran Mamdani and all the progressives, they're not running on real issues. I mean, they want free buses. There was already a trial of free buses in New York. Oh, they want to have city, run grocery stores. There were already city-run grocery stores in Milwaukee in the 20th century under a socialist mayor. And at the time, Milwaukee was considered the most well-managed city in America. So there is this movement waiting for us that I feel like the Democratic Party is not taking advantage of. There isn't someone that is stepping into the breach and going, wow, I could be in charge of this.
Well, even at that level, I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. If you're enabling a MAGA in your life somehow, you've got to stop doing that, because that's something you can do. Your personal relationships with individual people, you have control over. That doesn't have to come from a party or an official. You can do that yourself. And if you disassociate from those people and say, I cannot tolerate your intolerance or whatever the deal is, there is a price that family member, that neighbor, that coworker, that associate pays for that relationship. And nobody, I don't believe very many people are holding their relatives accountable. I never believe you should do that with somebody that you need to
Now, that
get
is
money
something-
from, but I
that is
think that's something
that you and
everyone
I
can
do.
do.
That is something that you and I have done.
We have done. That's right. And I advise other people to do it. It's something people are loath to listen to, but it is something you can do. More powerful than writing your congressperson is to cut that relationship off and say, this is why
And
you're
I
not
wanna
going to see your
I
granddaughter
want to be
anymore.
mindful of sitting there and going, the election didn't happen, and then you and I just cut off ties with our family. Like there were years of investment and trying to have conversations with the folks in our lives who were MAGA or were rapidly turning into MAGA, and we constantly were having these conversations with them. And then it just resulted in, we realized like they are going to continue. They're going to persist. They're going to persist in this. They're not going to change their minds. And what they're doing and what they're voting for is detrimental and harmful.
Well, now
us
it's
and-
death threats to
well,
us. So yeah, that's beyond
Yeah.
my line. I don't know who else has got a line that's somewhere else, but that's beyond my line. And it's something, it's not worth that association.
And as we are irked, dismayed at how the Democratic Party is and isn't responding to the MAGA administration, here comes Elon Musk, who's going to start the America Party. I don't know how serious he's going to be about it, but he's got a lot of cash, and he did invest in a weird get out the vote operation that apparently was successful. I don't know, last fall. But for me, the two-party system is always been a little weird, because I'm also a French citizen. I'm a dual citizen in the U.S. and France, and in Europe they have lots of governments the governments are made up of lots of different parties. There are so many different parties, and then the parties create governing coalitions depending on how the vote goes. And here, if he is going to legitimately create a party, I think that there could be an opportunity here to create a party on the left, a progressive party or a democratic socialist party, however you want to name that. And I think that we could have an opportunity to break the two-party system. And I think that would be in our favor. To have parties that actually represent us. And we're seeing it happening, though, in New York City right now. We're going to have a Republican nominee. We're going to have the former Democratic Party member, Eric Adams, who was allegedly accused of accepting bribes from the government of Turkey. I'm going to continue this after the break because I think that this is what's going to happen in New York could happen in the country in terms of breaking the two-party system and having parties that actually represent America. You're listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF and WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces is having their annual sale for the entire month of July. All of their indoor and outdoor fireplace products and accessories are at the lowest price of the year.
Did you know that now there's also a 30% federal tax credit when you install an efficient wood heating stove or fireplace? At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we can explain and show you the many options. We have the Twin Cities' widest selection of wood-burning stoves and fireplaces.
I love my wood stove. We enjoy the sense of well-being we get by cutting and splitting wood to warm our home. Wood is our choice, but you may have other choices at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Whether transforming an existing fireplace or adding something new, a clean-burning wood, gas, or electric fire can have you sitting pretty and cozy by the fire.
Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces at Riverside and East Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis or at woodlandstoves.com. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, since 1977, out-of-the-ordinary products and services to make fire work for you.
Are your remote workers putting your company at risk? Not sure what steps to take to secure your data? Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. The Rymark team is guiding our clients through these difficult times. In fact, demand has been so high, we created an easy-to-follow guide with the 5 steps to securely work from home. It's yours free. Download our 5 steps to securely work from home now at rymarkit.com or call 651-328-8900 for a no-cost how-to discussion.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Peace of mind shouldn't cost a fortune. We keep things simple at Schroman Law because we believe planning for your estate and end-of-life care shouldn't be stressful or expensive. Every client relationship starts with a free consultation so clients have the information they need before making important decisions. From there, we work closely with clients to ensure they are choosing the most efficient and cost-effective plans for their specific needs. Schedule a free consultation today at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm your host, John Parker. We are coming up on the top of the hour. Yes, I see in the YouTube chat there that we have had multiple parties before, and they didn't really work out. But I think that, a case in point, the Green Party. I think nominating what's her face multiple times over multiple cycles, and it didn't work out. They were never able to do it. But I think that there could be an opportunity to create one, because I want to take New York. We're going to have at least 3 candidates, possibly 4th, if Andrew Cuomo keeps his name. He's kept his name on the ballot, so he could run as an independent. Eric Adams was a Democrat. He is now running as an independent, so 2 independents. We're going to have Zohran Mamdani, who is technically a progressive. He identifies as a democratic socialist, but he would be in that sort of progressive democratic socialist, that ilk of the left. And then you're going to have, that's the 4. He won the Democratic primary, so he's technically going to be the Democratic nominee. But we have 4 candidates there that are really going to be are technically representing 3 very different ideological positions. And so with ranked choice voting, I think this is going to be very interesting to see, because it's not just a single vote here. You're going to have ranked choice voting. So you're going to get to show here's my first choice, here's my second choice. How is that all going to play out? Are folks going to vote for the Republican candidate first and then Eric Adams second? Are they going to vote for Cuomo? Are they going to vote for Mamdani first and then Cuomo? Jimmy, you're just rolling your eyes at me all day today.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the person on YouTube, and I feel like I've said this to you before. I feel like the stuff you bring up is
so we can't talk about it anymore.
No.
It
No. I think it's really smart, but I'm panicked about 2028 as a chance to save this country, and I'm less interested in a 4-party experiment in 2028, maybe in 2032, when we get the country back and believing in what it claims to be instead of this nightmare. But I feel like to do that now, to take one more, we've already taken a risk on 2 women candidates that the misogyny in the country defeated. I just don't want another excuse for all the independent people who don't really seem to believe in anything in particular to have another reason to not vote or not support the Democratic candidate. So I want some,
I think it would be the other way around.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I think that the centrist, if you look at the New York primary, Cuomo alienating folks. Cuomo was run out of the governorship because he was sexually assaulting and harassing 12 women in his administration. Eric Adams was credibly accused of taking bribes from the government of Turkey. These are the standard bearers for the Democratic Party. Then you get Zohran Mamdani, who talks about issues that really matter to people. He brings in 100,000 new voters. And what is the Democratic Party doing right now? They're trying to attack him. They're trying to say that he's dangerous, that we shouldn't be running someone like him.
This is not, if I can't get agreement on this, then there's something the matter. We are right on the knife's edge of survival as a country. And so all this sort of academic posturing about, well, what if we all wore blue shirts? I think what you're saying is correct. You and I have both talked. The second vote I ever cast
we have a caller
for president was an independent. So I believe in that.
We have a caller. Sorry. Lawrence in St. Paul messaging to the LGBTQ community is your topic. Hey, Lawrence. Are you still there? Lawrence in St. Paul? He may have. Sorry, Lawrence. I just saw that you were calling. Maybe you can call back. You're always accusing me of having an academic argument where I'm bringing facts that need to be acted upon here. And we have a candidate, Zohran Mamdani, who won the primary. And instead of saying vote blue no matter who, they're attacking him. He brought in tens of thousands of new voters.
Yeah,
they're going, no more vote blue no matter who. So when it's us having to vote for theirs, yes. But when it's a Democrat having to vote for a progressive, not so much.
Yeah, I think that's not the point, but I hear what you're saying. I like Mamdani. I like him. You and I both like him. He is our politics.
Lawrence is back. Lawrence from St. Paul.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you guys. Hey, yeah, I've been listening to you. You guys, here's the thing. I'm just going to try to put this in a nutshell about the Democrats. and this is very typical for them. First of all, as I run for mayor of Mendota Heights, probably won't win because it's very conservative. But I got a very clear platform here. And that is Donald Trump's name will be removed from anywhere in the State House because I'm not going to have a dictator picture. I'm not going to have a dictator's picture in my state offices. That's the first thing. The second thing is, in this country, we have never sit down and said, you know what? We want to move beyond racism. So anybody that's associated with a racist organization, you will be weeded out. And then you put an undercover, you make it a whole, like he had those, we'll have a whole department just strictly devoted to weeding out extremists. Second thing is, when let's say a gay couple walks into a coffee shop, they're holding hands, showing affection to each other. Okay, some people, and just for us to qualify what I'm saying next, I travel all the way around the world. I'm an airline pilot for Delta, and I've flown Tokyo everywhere, and I seem to have a message that everybody resonates with. And I'll tell you, and you correct me if I'm wrong, or you can add anything to this message.
Lawrence, I got 20 seconds left.
Okay, 20 seconds. So, if a gay guy and his partner goes into a coffee shop, you have your right to be disgusted with it. But that's as far as it'll go. You can't go anywhere else. And that's what I'm doing here to protect. You protect gay rights. You can have your own.
Lawrence, Lawrence gets the last word today. That's a show, actually. Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence, thank you for calling in today. It's a hard break. It's the end of the show. So thanks everyone for listening today. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer, please.
July is the annual store-wide sale at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Come see our diverse selection of wood, gas,